to do both. I remember having a conversation with him about, there's only so many hours in the day, so you're going to have to meet extra with this coach or that coach. And he made a comment that he's a fisherman. He gets up at 5 in the morning quite often, so it's not a problem for him in terms of maximizing his day. I think we and every team that's in the top of this draft has to come up with a plan of how you would see it, but then you really have to be able to adjust to what the player is doing really well, or maybe, hey, we need to do a little bit less of this and more of that, or vice versa.
All right, so it sounds like Stefanski's open to having Travis Hunter play both ways. We'll see how that all plays out. But RC, we heard over the past few days, there's been reporting that some teams have called to maybe trade up to get that number 2 spot. But if you're the Browns, what should you do there?
I mean, if you're the Cleveland Browns, you understand that you need to get better at so many spots, especially offensively. And if someone is willing to part with a ton of assets in order to acquire a Travis Hunter, or maybe they love an Abdul Carter, I believe you have to listen. This team isn't a Travis Hunter away from being a championship contender. And so if you can add the correct assets on top of what you already have in this draft, I believe that you should move back if that's possible. The other thing is this. When you listen to Andrew Berry talk about Travis Hunter, they want him to primarily be a wide receiver because they're stacked at the cornerback positions. That happens to be a position in this draft that you can get some value for later in the first round.
You take calls, 100%. You're right about that. But for me, it would take a lot to move off of Travis Hunter. He's the best player in the draft. He's not going to go first because he doesn't play quarterback, but he's the best player in the draft. And Ryan and I have talked about this a lot. I, too, think ideally he'd be a cornerback and you sprinkle in some wide receiver. But I'll say this, watching him as a receiver, he's the best wide receiver in the draft, and he's so damn naturally gifted at it. I mean, the athleticism, the stop-start ability, the catch radius, the surprising physicality at his size. He's got it all. The only thing he has to work on, I believe, significantly is the route running has to be refined. But if he's focusing full-time on the position, Marcus, I think he will improve on that. So I'm not going to be angry with the Browns for taking him. I'm not going to be angry with them for playing him at wide receiver.
I think a lot of it is just the athleticism is off the charts, right?
Insane.
And the
It's ridiculous.
Insane.
And he reminds you of those kids, man, that come out and do everything. Like if he played baseball, he'll probably go to the major leagues.
Yeah.
If he played basketball and focused on that. Here's the thing for me, though, and I love Travis. Like I think he is one of the generational guys that we've seen in the draft in a long time. I would put Abdul Carter across the line of scrimmage from Miles Garrett in a New York movie, right?
No, not the defensive line guy saying, let's have bookends. I can't believe it.
But listen to why.
Kind of gave and give up
It's
9.
such a good scheme for
But
him,
listen
too.
to why, though. That is first, MK. I think it's perfect for him. And look, we've talked about his prowess against the run game. You don't necessarily have that issue in Cleveland because he can play a little bit freer. But, bro, I got to play Lamar and Joe. Twice a year. Like, so I get it that we wanted to get the wide receiver and all of that. But you could score 35 and Joe gonna score 50.
Right.
Like, and that's the issue that I see a lot of times when you
I have a
start
question
talking
for
about
you.
this division.
Why didn't you talk about the Steelers quarterbacks?
Well, because they don't.
We don't know that yet, right?
Right?
Maybe we will later.
We'll get to that.
Oh, Rudolph. All right, Dan, the Cleveland other big question, of course, is
Derailing
around the
us.
quarterback situation. There are opportunities for them. Maybe they could trade back up into the first round or get somebody later. They've got all those picks. What do you think's best case scenario?
Best case scenario is trading back up into the first round because I don't think you can just sit there and wait for the first pick of the second round. I think the style of quarterback that they want matters here. You know, Kevin Stefanski, who's taking over the play calling again in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, who's not physically this remarkable quarterback, ton of success. 2 years ago with Joe Flacco, ton of success. And then Deshaun came and they kind of tried to change the offense a little bit. And so if Kevin Stefanski's taken over as the play caller, everyone's going with Jalen Milroe. I don't see Milroe as the fit there. Like schematically, for me, it's more Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, Tyler Shuck from Louisville.
I think Tyler Shuck
as the scheme fit more than, you know, a Shador fit scheme-wise. I just don't think he'll be there at the 33rd pick of the draft.
Yeah, Milroe, of course, the offensive coordinator now for the Browns, Tommy Rees, was at Alabama. He was the offensive coordinator for Milroe. That didn't always work out as well as they wanted it to. All right, let's bring Adam in. Adam, what do you know about what you're hearing with the Browns right now?
Everything.
Here's what's interesting about the Browns. You're talking about whether they would field calls and move out at number 2. The fact of the matter is they've probably gotten more calls from teams asking if the Browns want to move back into round 1 to try to draft a quarterback at that point in time. We've seen a history of teams who have used a pick on a player or a need that they have and then try to trade back in. Let's go back to the Baltimore Ravens. They drafted Hayden Hurst initially with their first-round pick, then traded back in the first round with the last pick to go get Lamar Jackson in the first round. And the Browns have gotten calls from teams asking them if they would have an interest in moving back into the first round again. And I think we could see some of those moves tomorrow, depending on whether or not Shedeur Sanders goes at 21. If Shedeur goes 21, we could start to see fireworks from 22 to 32. But if Shedeur doesn't go there, then people may be sitting back and waiting.
All right, and again, so that just brings us right back to the Steelers quarterback. It's 21, of course, is their pick. More from Adam throughout the show.
Calls from teams about trading up for picks 2 and 3. What is the latest you're hearing?
I think there's just been as much talk about teams calling the Browns to see if they'd want to move back into the end of the first round as there has been teams trying to come up. Look, we have not seen a trade yet with a team involving its first-round draft pick. Every team still holds its initial first-round draft pick, and we'll probably get some action tomorrow night at some point in the draft. But right now, it's been quiet. It continues to be quiet. That's partly because of the quarterback draft class that is not as good as other years. It's partly because teams value the players in the second and third round in this draft. We may see a move for a pick at 2 or 3, but right now it has been quiet there.
All right, Mike T., let's dig into this a little deeper. Which team do you think should be aggressive in trying to trade up to one of those spots?
Jay, the Las Vegas Raiders should try to go from 6 to 3 with the Giants for Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, and here's why. Pete Carroll was brought in to stabilize the franchise. They signed Geno Smith. And when you're trying to control the game against Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Bo Nix, go get an explosive difference-making running back. He had 12 rushes of 50 yards or more, 17 yards after contact. And when you think about the impact Saquon Barkley had on the Eagles, a healthy Christian McCaffrey with the 49ers, that's what Ashton Jeanty could do for the Raiders. And to make sure that Jacksonville doesn't take him at 5, go up and get him.
Xin chào các bạn, đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay mình sẽ dùng hạt vòng để hướng dẫn các bạn làm vòng nhé. Lúc này em chụp kỹ yếu, em gọi chị Lan Anh lên nhá. Gọi hết ở đây đi. Thôi, tát từ cái. Lắm hỏng. Đâu, em học Việt Hàn mà. Tí bác muốn đông anh vậy? Tí bác muốn đông anh vậy? Hôm nào chụp để cho hai mặt bên đấy là phân tích còn đăng vào không? Vâng, không, còn lâu em mới chụp. Bây giờ em thi xong em mới chụp. Với lại cái lớp em nó có chụp đâu. Chụp này là bọn em mấy đứa book riêng mà.